Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me for another build video. In this video I'm actually doing a modification repaint of this Blade Runner water gun pistol here. Deckard's pistol has been a weapon I've always wanted to have and dreamed of having, and this is a water pistol made by Paragon FX Group. It's actually modeled from the same tooling for their highly collectible prop gun. So the only thing that's missing, unfortunately, is the engraving in the barrel, which I'm not sure why it's not in this gun, but it's not. So let's take a look at it. Obviously it's hard to see some of the detail being the clear plastic it's in as a water gun, but you can tell the main outline of it. There's where the water would go in. Sure enough, it's a water gun. But the detail of it is very nice. I can't wait to get painting on this guy, and I'm also going to light up the little red LEDs on the sides and underside there. The triggers, don't really worry about those too much. They gave you these red little beads to put in for red LEDs, but I'm going to wire it up with real lights, LEDs, and these green, those are horrible for the water gun. I don't know why they would have done that. But I'm going to put red LEDs in there on both sides, and most likely I'm thinking green here as well, and I'm thinking of running the wires out the bottom and making a battery compartment in the bottom of the grip here. So I'm probably going to cut that away and have a 9-volt battery up inside here to power all the LEDs, and you can just slap it in and there's your pistol. So to start with, one thing I noticed that's nice is the grips come off, which is cool because there's supposed to be a transparent amber grip in the first place, so that's nice. And you can see the detail in these grips. Looks really nice. When this is going to be painted all black, it should look even better with solid black behind it rather than that opaque black plastic. Should look a lot, hopefully it should look a deeper orangish color, closer to the amber. And it's nice that they come off, so it makes it easy to paint the rest of the guns without the grips being in the way. Also, I'm going to take out the little orange tip here. Don't want that on there. And this little hole here for the water fill, I'm going to end up filling with some putty and sanding down and making smooth, getting rid of that hole there altogether. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut away this bottom of this grip here with a blade. Carefully cut the bottom out so that I can put it back with the battery compartment attached. And I've just about got the entire base of the grip cut away now. Just going through making sure it's all good. And there we have the bottom, which should seamlessly fit right here since it was just cut. It actually fits a little bit better with the grips on. The grips kind of hold the bottom of it in place easier so it doesn't slide around. But you can see it fits right inside there. And looks pretty good. You don't even really see that anything was cut away the way the grips are on there. It kind of goes underneath the grips, so it looks nice and clean. So as far as running wires through here for the LED, I want to run them through the handle. I'm going to have to remove some of that stuff up there. The seams, I just could not get the gun to come apart, which is why I'm trying to figure out how to do the LEDs best. I think I'm going to have to drill holes and then push them through and then run the wires through and have them come out the base at this point. So I drill right through here, run the wires down into here for the 9-volt battery. The gun does not come apart at the seams. One of the first things I'm going to do is just drill out the front barrel here to make it look more real. Obviously it would be a big black hole there. You would not have an end, so I'm just going to go ahead and drill out the end of the barrel here. And finally the right size is an 11/32 to get the full barrel size drilled out. And you can see I've drilled a hole up through the bottom here. I drilled through the mechanism of the water gun so that wires can come through from the LEDs. You can see the hole there. You can see my finger underneath going through the clear plastic there. So I'll have wires run through from the LEDs down the hole into the base to power it. And there are some wires that I have pulled through from a test LED where I drilled a hole here. And the LED, it's just not going to fit through there the way I want it to. It fits through perfectly this way. It's just the rim of the LED and those wires are not going to fit through the hole. So this section here is the issue, and I think I'm going to have to rethink how I'm going to light this guy up. So just like the grip, I think I'm going to cut around the edge of this entire cartridge piece here and let this be removable and house the LEDs inside there and run the wires in through the backside. So I'm going to go ahead and start carving along the edge of this area just like I did with the base of the grip. I'm going to go around the entire thing until I get it cut free with my blade here. Just go around these very carefully so I don't make any mistake cuts or any scratches. And I've finally got it cut all the way around. You can kind of see, and it pops right out now. So I started sanding down the seams of this piece. The way the water gun is welded at the seams, I should just be able to sand it. Then I have to drill out, I have the one hole here, I have to drill out the other 3 holes for the remaining LEDs. And I've got all 4 of those holes drilled out here, as you can see. And I've gone and I've given this a shot of Tamiya fine white primer. I got this little switch here. I'm going to cut this out so that I can actually put a working switch in there to turn the LEDs on and off. So I'm going to go ahead and cut away some of the inside here. There's a bunch of heavy plastic right here that I'm going to try to cut away on the inside. Do that carefully. And then I've got the entire hole cut out here so that I can put a switch inside there. And I'm going to go ahead and sand down the edges of the water gun just to make it a little bit smoother, since some of the cutting wasn't great, and that's pretty smooth there now to the touch anyway. We'll find out once I do some painting how it looks and how it feels. And I'm also going to continue and do a little sanding around this piece too that I have cut out so that they'll fit together and look clean. Then I'm going to go around the rest of the entire gun and just start sanding down all the seams. Feels pretty smooth. Again, because the plastic is welded on a water gun, it's pretty good when you sand it. I don't think there's going to be much of a need to do some putty there. But I am going to put putty here. I'm going to fill in this hole here with some putty. So I put some tape in there just to kind of hold the backside. And I'm just going to put some Tamiya putty inside this hole here. And then let that dry. And then I'll sand that down smooth as well. And then I'm going to continue sanding all the rest of the seams. I've sanded down the seams on the bottom of the grip here as well. And that still fits right in there like so. And then again, the entire gun is shot of some primer. I did put a little putty up here. Seams are still showing a little bit. And I've also sanded down this putty spot. For the most part, it's looking pretty good. Just going to need to do a little more sanding, maybe a few more putty spots, and that's about it. And I've got it really nice now. The entire gun has been painted with my fine white primer, and I'm not really seeing any seams now around the gun at all. So it's looking really nice, and I'm happy with how it's turning out so far. I did drill out holes here for the LEDs on this part, for the green LEDs. And I've got this little switch from a little candle that I had, smallest switch I could find, and it fits perfect right inside this little hole here. And there's enough room for it to actually switch and click and activate. So I'm just going to use this switch for the gun. And I painted this now with my ever popular Army Painter Black. Like the way this is turning out so far. Then I've got my red LED here. Unfortunately, all I had were clear red LEDs, so I'm going to have to paint that to look red. But when it's inside here and I turn it on, you can see how it lights up nice and red. It's very bright. I'm hoping when I put some red paint on the tip of this, it'll dim it down a little bit. And that way it'll also look red while it's showing through and not turned on. So I'm just going to paint the tip. Before I paint though, I'm going to give it a little bit of sanding. Try to diffuse it a little bit. That should also help with the intensity of the light. Got that sanded down. Then I'm going to use some of my Tamiya clear red paint here. And I'm going to go ahead and just airbrush some clear red paint onto the tips of these LEDs. And just get them nice and red so that when they're inside the gun they look red even when they're not turned on. Got all 4 of these done now. Then I'm just going to go ahead and place all 4 of them into the holes in the bottom here. Again, I know it would have been easier with red LEDs, but I didn't have any and I wasn't going to go buy some when I could just shoot these with some red paint. But there's all 4 of them in place. Then I'm just going to do a drop of some super glue around all of them just to hold them in place. And all 4 of them are powering up and working just fine. I've cut the positive and negative wires there and twisted them together. I'm just going to go ahead and drop some solder on the tips of these where I've got them twisted together. And then the switch I'm going to hot glue into position inside here. I'm just going to put a big glob of hot glue to hold that so that it won't move when you're flipping the switch, toggling it back and forth. I'm also going to go ahead and do some soldering on these pins of this switch here. I'm going to drop a little solder on each pin first before I put the wires on there. And I'm going to go ahead and solder the hot wire to this far left leg here, that when the switch is flipped, power will flow through for the positive there. And I've got that positive connected to the other positive, so when the switch is flipped, it'll flow through and everything will power up. Then I've got another positive that goes to the center here, which will go to the battery supply. So another little test here. I've got ground going to all the grounds from the battery supply. And I have the hot of the battery supply going to the switch, and when you flip the switch, the LEDs come on. Flip the switch back off, and flip it back on. And that's just with those 2 pins allowing the positive to flow through. Now all 4 of these LEDs have built-in resistors underneath inside the shrink there, and you can see they're still pretty bright, they're pretty intense. So I'm going to throw another resistor in line. I've got a 1K resistor here. I'm going to throw that in line with the power just to knock it down a bit and dim those lights. So you can see how bright they are. And now with the 1K resistor, you see how much that dimmed them down and cut the intensity down. So there's without the 1K resistor, and there's with the 1K resistor, without and with. You can see the big difference there. You'll also notice from this shot there's also a red LED on the bottom side. So it's molded as this little nub here. What I'm going to do is cut it off, shave it down, and drill a hole there for another LED. So I've gone and I've cut it, sanded it down smooth, and I just need to cut the hole out there. I've gone and cut the hole out, repainted it with the black. I actually do have some red LEDs I found, so I'm going to use a real red LED here, and that will fit right inside there like so. I'm just going to push it down so that it doesn't quite protrude out the bottom. And I'm just going to hot glue this LED in place. And again, make it so it just barely pokes out through the bottom. And you can see there, it's glued in position. Then I'm going to go ahead and add a resistor to the positive side and add it to the positive side of all the other LEDs. Added a ground to the ground side. And then I'm going to power this up once again, and that LED lights up as well with the rest of them. Now that I've got that done, I'm going to power this off of a coin cell battery. So I have a battery holder here, which I just am going to hot glue into place right on top of this whole area here. So I put a little hot glue here just as a little ledge for the battery holder to sit on. And then I've gone and I've hot glued the entire thing. I've connected the ground wire to all the grounds, and I've connected the hot wire from the switch here to the hot side with that 1K resistor also to the coin cell holder, and everything else is soldered to this last light here. So now, with that dried and all glued in place, I can slap my coin cell battery in here. And it's all a single housing, and if I flip my little switch, all 5 LEDs are lighting up, and the intensity is not quite as bright, and they're a lot dimmer now with that extra resistor in there. And it's working just fine with the switch off and on. So now that I've got that done, I need it to fit back on the underside of the gun, and this fits in here pretty snugly, but I need to put something here to hold it in place on the end. So what I'm going to do is I have a piece of plastic from an old sprue, and I'm just going to cut just a chunk off and glue it on here. And I've cut this square piece off, and I'm just going to glue it onto the tip of this here so that it will have a lip and catch. So I've hot glued that and super glued it into position to hold it extra sturdy. Now I'm going to take my liquid electrical tape before anything else, and I'm going to go through and cover up all my connections so nothing gets shorted out. I'm also going to continue on with the electrical tape and go around the LEDs on the inside to block the light. And I've got all that covered up now with my electrical tape. LEDs are still working just fine. And there's no light leaking out of those. A little bit out of that one, but that should not show through when it's inside the gun. For the most part, no light leaking, and this whole housing is finished. So I've also painted the gun with my Army Painter black paint, and it turned out beautiful. Like I've said many times before, I love the finish of this paint. It goes on so nice and smooth and even. I love the sheen of it, just that kind of semi-gloss. Already the gun is taking on kind of a metallic color to it. And then when you take the grip handles here and put them on, they look a lot nicer now with the solid black handle behind them. So the next thing I need to deal with on the gun is this ring here from where the orange tip went. That needs to be perfectly smooth all the way, so I need to fill that in with some putty because the orange tip went on there and that's where it clipped in place. So I'm going to fill that up with some putty, sand it down, and make it smooth. And there's my putty all around the outside. Then I just need to sand it down. And I've gone and sanded it down and reshot it with the black, and you can see it's nice and smooth and clean now all the way to the end of the barrel. You also notice in this photo here, the screws on the top are hex head screws. This is just a round ball, so I want to make that look like a hex screw. So what I'm going to do is use some of my Allen hex keys here, heat it up and push it inside to make that indentation to look like a hex screw. I've also got another one here in the rear as well, which should also be a hex head screw. So I'm literally just going to take my little key here, heat it up under a flame, and then I'm just going to carefully center it up in the piece here, and then while it's nice and hot, I'm just going to start to push it into the plastic to make the indentation and make it look like a screw head. And I've done that for the rear as well, and then of course the front one here. There's also this on the bottom, which is also another hex, and I have a big key here, so I'm going to do the same thing with that. And you can see I made the indentation there to make it look more like a hex screw. In this reference photo, you'll notice there's a line here. This lever here is supposed to lift up and go to this, and this entire mechanism slides back, and there should be a line here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carve that in there. So I've got a scriber here, just using a ruler here, and I'm just going to carefully take my scriber and I'm just going to run a line right down the center there to separate those two pieces to make it look like it can slide back and forth. Got that line done, and then I reshot it with my Army Painter Black. And now I'm going to try the tab here and see if that works to hold this in place, and I'm just going to put the tab right underneath there, which will kind of clip in there. And then fortunately it's tight enough, the back just snaps right in place and it holds. I was going to originally use magnets, but it's just locking itself in place with no problem. I've also gone and shot the bottom of the grip with the Army Painter Black, and that's nice and smooth and black now. But you'll notice in the photos it's supposed to be a silver bottom to the handle. So I'm going to use some of my Tamiya TS76 mica silver, and I've gone and I've shot this with the mica silver, and it looks very close to the actual prop gun. And there's also a little bit of silver on the back of the handle here and on the front of the handle here that you'll notice. So I've gone ahead and taped that off, and I've shot that with some of the mica silver as well. You'll also notice on the bottom that it's all scuffed up in black. So I've taped off. I'm going to give this a shot of black, and I've done some hairspray. And so now that I painted the black over the hairspray, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around with some sandpaper, just start sanding it, and then I'm going to scuff it up and scrape it up and make it look like the prop gun. Because I'm also using this now to power the LEDs, I don't need to have this removable. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this into position now. And I've gone and I've glued it in place. You can see the bottom all scuffed up there. And then I'm going to fill this in with some putty to make it solid silver now. So I filled it in, sanded it down on the back and the front here. And then I've gone and you can see the bottom again all scuffed up. And I've gone and I've repainted that. A little bit of work there that still needs to be done. I might do a little more shot of silver. But that's how the bottom of the handle is going to look now. Moving on, I'm going to work on the barrel. I've taped off the handle and the whole barrel here so that I can give those a shot of paint because it's a different color than the rest. So I'm going to use my Tamiya X10 gunmetal paint here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start airbrushing the barrel with this gunmetal. And it's a really nice gunmetal. I actually really like the way this color is looking. It's a very nice metallic finish, and just go around the entire thing here until I have it nice and evenly coated with the gunmetal. And you can see there that I've got it all painted up with the gunmetal. Then I'm also going to paint the trigger portion as well with the same gunmetal gray. And there we have it with the tape off. You can see the separation of the black from the gunmetal, and that's looking really nice. I do really like that gunmetal finish. It's very nice. So now I've taped off the gunmetal portions because the black portion is actually supposed to be highly glossy. So I'm going to paint all of this give it all, even the handle here, give it a shot of some gloss. And before I do, I've got my liquid mask here, and I'm going to mask off the LEDs on this bottom because this needs to be gloss black as well. And I'm just going to take the liquid mask and I'm going to go around and I'm going to cover all the LEDs with the liquid mask so that when I shoot this, or cover it rather, with some clear coat gloss, that the LEDs won't get it. Even covered the switch there. So I've given the entire thing 3 coats of gloss. You can see how that looks there. It's looking very nice and glossy, like the real prop. And I'm just going to start removing all the tape. And there we have the main colors of the gunmetal and the gloss black. And I'm very happy with how this is turning out so far. Then I'm just going to go ahead and remove all of the liquid latex from the switch and from the LEDs. And then now that I've got all of that removed, just give it one test really quick. And there's the LEDs lighting up while it's inserted inside the gun. And then here, just a quick look with the handles on there and how it's going to ultimately pretty much look before weathering and detailing with the amber grip handles. So originally I was going to wire the green LEDs up to the battery, but in the movie they are never actually turned on. So I'm just going to go ahead and snip off the end of these here with some snippers, and I am just going to put the green LEDs inside the hole of the gun here, just like it was in the movie. I'm just going to insert them in there and glue them into place, and they are not going to turn on. And I've got both of them glued in, the rear and the front, and they're both secured and glued. And also on the front of the barrel here, this little area here should be silver, this chamber area. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot this, airbrush it with some Tamiya chrome silver. And there you can see how that looks, all chrome silver now. Also in the real prop, you'll notice this on-off switch for the lights is white. So I have gone and shot my switch with some white paint. And now it's time to start weathering and detailing. I'm going to start out by going through some areas here with just a black wash. Try to bring out the highlights on this right here. Go through and go around the screws, deepen and darken them up with some black wash. Then I'm going to go through the entire gun with some Tamiya chrome silver, and I'm just going to start dry brushing around areas, especially like these knobs, to pick up the raised areas so they stand out. And lightly go over them. You can see how those pop and stand out now. I'm going to pick up these raised edges on this over here. Just lightly go over it and pick up everything I can. It also gives it a bit more metallic look to it, like it's been rubbed raw. And just keep going around the entire gun here, picking up edges of things where it's been scraped and banged and dinged. And there I've got all of my chrome silver weathering done. All around the edges, scraped up, scuffed up. Even around some of the gunmetal areas, just to make it look like it's been worn and weathered. And it's been polished from being handled. And all around there you can see it down around here, the front area of the gunmetal there. Just everywhere I've done, not heavy but lightly. You'll also notice there's this area here that's kind of dark. So I'm going to go through with some of my soot pastel and try to make some dark areas in the gunmetal here. Make it look like it's been handled and dirty and worn. It's not working very well with the brush here. So I'm going to go ahead and having better luck actually just putting it on my fingers and rubbing it on with my fingers I'm just going to go around the entire barrel here and rub some black areas. And you can see there, you can see some darkness even in the handle there, around the back here. Just some areas where it's a little bit darker. Maybe it's been handled by hands, or, you know, just the metal wearing. And then the main thing here you'll notice on the handle here, on the top of the barrel, all on the side, all on the top, is there is a lot of rust. So I'm going to use my Viejo Dark Rust, and I'm just going to start going around the entire barrel with some dark rust on a sponge. And I'm just going to start dabbing the whole barrel with this rust. And I'm going to try to create that same look, just blotchy rust all over. Just continue going around the entire barrel and the handle and everything with gunmetal. And there's my first pass, even the trigger area. You know, Blade Runner being in that 2019 LA that's always rainy all the time, it's no wonder there would be a lot of rust all over things. But you can see the rust blotchiness all over my barrel. I may even add a little more, I'm not sure yet, but I like the way it's looking so far. Then I'm going to take some soot, Tamiya soot, and I'm going to darken up this area in here that I did with the chrome silver, make it look like it's been used and worn and there's been some heat there. And you can see how that's weathered up a little bit there. And again, you can see the nice rust here in the handle back here. I did add a little bit more. I think it's closer to the way the actual prop gun looks. And I like the way it's turning out so far. Also, you'll notice the bullets in this shot here. So I have these little 12mm silicone earring backings that I got off of Amazon. And I'm basically going to use these to just create the back end of the bullet. I'm going to cut it so that it shapes, so that it fits where I want it to go. And you can see I can just take this and drop it right in here, and I just want to recreate like the end of the bullet, like you can kind of see it showing through, like there's bullets inserted inside the cartridge here. And I got 2 bullets cut out. Then I've gone and I've given them a coat of my Army Painter Black. And then what I'm going to do is use some of my gold paint marker, and I'm just going to go over both of them with the gold paint marker pretty heavily, try to get it as smooth as possible to make them look gold. Then I'm just going to take them and drop them right into place here. You got that top one there and the bottom one, and I'm just going to glue them into position there. And I've got them glued, so from the side they kind of stick out a little bit, and they just give the illusion anyway a little bit that there's some bullets inside there. Now in this shot, you'll notice in the handle there's these 2 screws that are hex socket screws. Here on the handle, they're molded in and they stick out, and they don't even look like hex screws, they're just popped out. So I'm going to put some real screws in there. I got a set here of some little hex socket heads. These are 2.5mm. So I'm going to go ahead, you can see the head here, and I'm going to drill a hole and actually put these screws through and have them inserted inside there. So I'm going to start out with a smaller hole, go all the way through, even into the inside of the handle. And this will allow me to insert the screw all the way through. So if I pull these outer portions off here, you can see my 2 holes that have gone through there. Then what I'm going to do with this hole here is I'm going to take my M2.5 socket head, and I'm just going to go ahead and start screwing it into that hole. Basically, you know, threading it from screwing it into the plastic. And I got that in there nice and neat. I'll take it back out. And you can see that's done, and I've also done the other ones on the other side. So all 4 holes have been done. Then I'm just going to continue drilling out this section here on these, increasing the size of the drill bit until ultimately I get up to an 11/64 size drill bit, which is the correct size for the hole for the head to fit through, and it gets rid of the part that's sticking out. You can see the head fits right through there. I just need to shave a little bit of the excess around the outside of the handle here. I'm also going to use some rubbing compound because after shaving it, it's a bit white and kind of scraped up. I'm going to use a little bit of rubbing compound here and try to just polish up the edges where I drilled it out. Still a little white there. So what I'm going to do is use some of my clear orange, to me a clear orange, and just dab some over the white area. And hopefully with that clear it'll match the rest of the orange clear plastic of the handle. And actually that looks really nice. So these hex screws are actually metal, but I painted them black because on the gun they're actually black and rusted. And then I'm just going to take the screw and insert it right inside here and screw it into place. Screw it down into the threads I had done. And do that with all 4 of the screws, and there we have the screws inserted into the handle on both sides of the gun. Also, this side, I painted the underside with my Tamiya clear orange. I noticed when I was doing the holes that it darkened it up a little bit, and I like the darker look. I think it looks a little more amberish. I don't know, that's my opinion. Anyway, that's the darker side. The lighter side looks more plasticky to me, and that's the darker side. Regardless, I like the darker side better, so I went ahead and painted both of them dark. Now I changed my mind with the green LEDs. I have put a pigtail on my battery supply. I ran new green LEDs through, both of those working, put them on a pigtail so I can just snap these pigtails together and light them up if I want to. So then I can just take this and slap it back onto the bottom, and I can have green LEDs working as well as the red LEDs. Although I prefer it without them on, but I do have the option now of being able to do one way or the other. So for now, I'm going to leave them unplugged because that's the way the actual real filming prop was done. And last thing you'll notice, these screws in the bottom of the handle here. My handle has no holes or screws, so I have marked them with the Sharpie in the appropriate location. Then I've gone through and I've drilled them out with a 3/16 bit. I've painted these little screws black. There's nothing for them to thread into, it's just the head fits nice and tight, and I'm just going to kind of squeeze and push it into the hole. And there we have both the screws done, and that should be the last mod to finish off this gun. So here's my completed Deckard's blaster. Hey, if you like watching my videos, please feel free to give them a like. And so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos, click subscribe.